Steph, thank you for coming on here today. Of
Thank you for having me, Gary.
course. So, yeah, getting this thing started and getting right into it, would you be able to give us a little bit about who you are and what you do here on the internet?
Yeah. Um, who I am is a child of God, just like each one of us. And what I am discovering as I show up on the internet, because it's this ever evolving, right,
Mm-hmm.
unraveling self that I've stepped into more so on YouTube. I've been on IG for many years as a musician, and that's really sort of like a past life almost now. I still do music, but that was pre awakening. And so now I find myself in a place where I am, yeah, letting myself be used, be a conduit,
Mm-hmm.
at the service of spirit and helping others remember who they really are as I remember who I really am as well,
Mm-hmm.
and break down the barriers, unboxing the concepts of God and Jesus, even, yeah, just these religious concepts that have been sort of claimed for many years. So it's sort of like reclaiming these concepts and re-inviting the world to heal those concepts and look at them again, because that's been a big part of my journey. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and just, follow the heart. I think that's it. There's no real specific definition on what I'm doing, rather who I'm doing it with, which is the divine and being moved and done through. Yeah, everything else can shift. So
Mm.
not being defined by the form.
Beautiful. Wow. So, would you be able to get into where this all comes from for you, this reclaiming?
Mm,
How did you start to see Jesus's word differently, or really the whole spiritual path differently? Where does this all come from for you?
yeah. And I love that word, this reclaiming, because as soon as you say that,
Yeah.
it's like, it's a reclaiming of the self, right? With a capital S. And then there is just like, as we reclaim things like God and Jesus, we reclaim ourselves because they are all intertwined identities. Um, and yeah, it's like this integration that happens. But for me, getting to that, yeah, like I was even at a point where I believed, Jesus and who he was could have been like a conspiracy and the things that people made up, and there are a lot of us who question so much on the journey and validly question it, coming from a Catholic upbringing, and being denied my questioning or things that I couldn't reconcile as a child or, as a older child, maybe 10, 12. And so not getting those questions answered, basically kind of let me, if, looking back on it, I can see that I threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Mm.
So I threw out the institution, I threw out the ideas that the institution represented. Um, and because the institution was the only thing that introduced God to me, introduced the concept of Jesus to me, well, then those concepts went out with the bathwater, right? Like,
Mm. Yeah.
but those were the babies. Those were the babies, and we don't want to throw out the baby. We just want to throw out the dirty water. So,
Yeah.
of course, I didn't know this. I can say this and explain it like this now. But this is years, um, and specifically in the year 2020, after more than 20 years of dedicating my life to being a musical artist, international star, singer, songwriter, performer, at different levels and different spaces, all the way through Europe, South America, and United States. After doing all that, having studied, formally at Berklee College of Music. So like this was my thing. This was my path. This was what I thought my purpose was, funny enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to the realization that I don't know, I felt like a hamster in a wheel after putting out a lot of my songs and finally doing stuff for my own music because I had been collaborating a lot and supporting others and, signing on to other people's projects as part of a way to expose myself and also work with people, but always with that background, like, desire and goal of like making it, getting to that
Yeah.
next level. So
Yeah.
kind of like Bruno Mars, he worked with a lot of people and then boom, he did his own thing. And that's how it goes for a lot of people, especially if they're songwriters, not just artists. So that was the quote unquote plan. And I got to the point when I started releasing my own things and putting out the video and, doing all the things to look right and exercising and getting the photo shoot and getting the right shot and then marketing the song, doing all the parts with the producers, literally all the steps, ba, 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 one after the other, putting the song out to the world and, hoping that the world approves. That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
That's, yeah. And so, but I never saw that before. I came to see that after releasing like 3, 4 songs and then seeing the pattern, making the video, promoting it, putting it out, da da da, getting the look, da. And it's all music that was good. It was all good intentioned, wanting to empower women or speaking from the heart and singing from the heart. It wasn't in any way like, it wasn't in any way, yeah, like deceitful
Bad
or
vibes.
anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. People loved what I was doing and they connected with it. But the issue was the foundation in me.
Mm-hmm.
Why was I doing it? What was I striving for? You
Mm.
know, who was I trying to prove myself to?
Yeah.
Um, And that's a huge question. I mean, we're all doing it in different ways, trying to prove our worthiness in our job, in our home, to our parents, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to our children even. I mean, the list goes on
Everybody.
in our
The whole
career,
tribe.
the whole tribe. And then we get into community and we're still trying to, we're doing spiritual awakenings and even in the spiritual path
Yeah.
we can fall into these traps because, well, as the Course in Miracles says, we have an egoic mind, that there's this split mind. And it's important to know that in the human experience, there is this split identity that's not based on reality, but it is there and we believe it. And if we believe it, we charge it, we power it. So it's here, we're living, quote unquote, living it. So we should pay attention because it's trapping us in a lot of ways,
Mm.
And, but yeah, going back to the hamster in the wheel, that's basically after all these releases, I was like, what do I really want? This is not what I really want. Like, how is
Mm.
it that my whole life is going to be based on the approval of others and
Yeah.
me seeking this validation? Like, this can't be what I signed up for. That's what I always say. Like, how is this my dream?
Yeah. Wow. I think the big difference between a liberated mind and not being liberated is conditionality. Are you doing this for some reason or are you just doing it just because? And it
Mm,
seems like that's what you just illuminated to us, that you were doing it for some reason, validation, approval, money, whatever, the whole list goes on. And that is what constrained you and confined you and ultimately caused suffering,
mm,
right?
that's
And yeah, and I think when you start to see outside of the box a little bit, take the red pill, you don't
it.
live for any reason. You kind of just like, you just want to live just because. You just want to live and love
Mhm.
just because. There's no conditions based upon living. There's no conditions based upon anything, really. There's no approval needed. So it seems like that's the big difference that you came to realize, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're talking about is like this beingness, it's just like living is loving. Like once
Mm-hmm.
you're in a state of love, you are truly living. Because
Yeah.
if there's anything I did realize is that I thought I was living. I
Uh-huh.
thought I had life and
Living the
that my
dream.
music career, right. And then I woke up and I woke up to life, to love, to the ultimate sense of love, which is beyond romantic partnership, right? Beyond even the roles in a family and children. It could be those are symbols that can be used um, like by the Spirit, at least looking at it from a Course in Miracles perspective. These are all symbols within the dream, within the matrix where we can shine our light, where we can see metaphorically how that can represent our relationship with God, with love, and where we can
Mm.
pour our love and therefore receive it because we're pouring it and it's this ever giving well, self-giving well.
Yeah.
Um,
Beautiful.
so yeah. Hmm.
That's what life's about. It's all about love. To be loved and to give love.
Right.
It's a cliche. We've all heard it before, but it really is the
Yeah.
truth. Once you see it, you don't unsee it.
Yeah, and they are one and the same, right? To give love is to be loved because
Exactly.
as I give love, I experience love.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think like, oh, this person is giving me love. That person is just a permission slip for me to feel the love I already have
Yeah.
within me, like Bashar said. So it's like, it's a permission slip. Everything is a permission slip for you to go deeper, for you to allow yourself to believe what
Mm-hmm.
is and forever will ever be within you.
Amen.
Mm,
Yeah. And that's really the only way to freedom. To be free in this life isn't tied to if I have this or if I don't have that, if I look like this, if they think I'm cool. It has nothing to do with that. It's all just about being a loving being.
yeah.
That's it. It's really that simple. Just love everybody. Love everybody and tell the truth, as Neem Karoli Baba says. And that's how you be free. And I think it's also important to know it doesn't negate any of that stuff. We
Hmm.
still do the humanly stuff. We still have to put food on the table. We still have our family. But as you said, it's just symbols. It's just
Hmm.
symbols for us to resonate at love at all times. And
Right.
we all have our own symbols. That's the thing. We all have our own methods, you could say, to remember and reclaim this love. But it's all the same love. It really
Right.
is. It's all the same love of God.
Yeah, and when you say we all have our symbols, it's like, we all have this script. And each script is, in the Course in Miracles, it says is highly individualized. Like your script is going to look very different from my script.
Mm-hmm.
So your script can inspire me, but I can't get stuck on your script and think like, oh, this is what he's doing, so I got to do this.
Yeah.
No, the invitation is sure, inspire yourself by others. Sure, connect with others, serve with others, but always come back to that internal relationship of between you and the spirit, or between you and the universe, how you would like whatever, that force, that fabric that is forever connecting us to everything and working through everything and for us, right, so that we can ultimately awaken to the love of God, to who we truly
Mm.
are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit.
Holy
It's
Spirit,
real.
amen, that's it.
Yeah. Now, this is good. This is beautiful. We can go on and on about this. I know I do. I go on and on about it every episode. But I want to ask you specifically about Jesus, and because I've been into the New Testament recently, like reading it for the first time. You know, I'm 31 now, just
Mhm.
reading the Bible for the first time, and it's very interesting. I've never been exposed to it. Never went to church, and reading it now with this sort of awakening, we could say,
Mhm.
seeing who I am, this essence of self-realization, being on the path, we could say. Reading the Bible is completely different from how I thought it was my whole life. I was a pragmatic, rational atheist. I thought anybody who was into Jesus was just stupid.
Mhm.
And now I see it. I'm seeing really what Jesus was trying to say. It might have got misconstrued through the years. Man may have misconstrued Jesus' words and created dogma out of it for sure. But if you know how to look at it with a keen eye, you'll come to realize that he was just trying to tell us what we're talking about now. right? In his own way, in his own flavor, of course. But um, yeah, my point is, I want to ask you about how or why, yeah, where did this all come from for you to see Jesus's words differently?
Mhm.
Because you, I think you mentioned, were a practicing Catholic your whole life, right? Like you grew up in the church.
Yeah, so I grew up going to like Catholic school and my family was Catholic. I didn't
Okay.
identify myself as Catholic at all. Like,
Oh,
so it wasn't like this avid Catholic, but I went to
so
private
but you
schools.
shoot it away.
I just kind of, yeah, it wasn't, I went more into the academic philosophical side of
Mm-hmm.
things.
I see. Yep.
So I
So
grew,
what made you
yeah.
say, wait a second, maybe Jesus was on to something here?
So when I realized that I'm this, hamster in a wheel in the music industry, in my version of my script, right? Where it's the world for all of us in different ways. But when I was a hamster in this wheel of like chasing and seeking and proving and, this whole thing, it's 2020. I decided to take a break because I'm asking myself deeper questions about like, what do I really want? Also, my daughter was born. She was turning 2. So I was literally going from like moments of pure presence with her because she's like just receiving the world for the first time, right? And so
Mm,
I'm like spending 10 minutes on a flower with her with no speed, no this presence that you were talking about, this beingness. And then at the same time, I'm over here like seeking for for that dream, that thing that
yeah.
I'm going to be that mom so she can grow up and see me and admire and can be inspired, all that. So, like, two very different energies and states,
Yeah.
and they became more and more of a split, and it became more clear within you, what do I really want? And so this reckoning sort of moment, right, where like my life flashed before my eyes. I saw all the people who are famous, who are in the state of the things that I wanted, and if I ask myself, are these people fulfilled and at peace and at ease in their life? How are they at rest? Can I say that for, I don't know, Beyonce, Shakira, Justin Bieber? Just let's talk about the top, top echelon of like music industry pop artists. And I couldn't respond yes to any of that. Like, no, there's always
Mm-hmm.
something new that they have to make. There's always something more, right? There's always this next level. And then it just doesn't stop. The proving, the seeking, it doesn't stop. And I was just like, that, what is it that I really want? And so when I did that and I realized I needed to stop everything, I took a break from socials. And in that break from socials, given it was 2020, we all had a break from work in many ways too, other jobs or anything. So I had time to fully engage with my daughter, and then time to look at questions that I never had time to actually look at or try to discover the answer to. One being, who is God? And why do I have such a charge, like such a rejection to the word God in and of itself? Like,
Mm,
I've been a yoga instructor. The universe was this perfect, easy word that everyone could accept and I could accept
yeah.
equally. And yet, the universe is just a fragment of what God is. So, like, you know, um, it's a useful term that we can use, kind of like spirit, but yeah, it was just like I was willing to look at this resistance, internal resistance towards a word that, I wanted to understand in some way, in some capacity. And so I literally Googled, how to get to know God. Because I'm like, what's the next step? What am I supposed to do? And Google responded, if you want to get to know God, read his word.
Wow.
And yes.
Shout out Google. Wow.
That's the spirit's work. It'll take into any part of whatever algorithm. If it needs to reach you, it will. In the
Yeah.
words and in the people and the ways that it needs to. Um, and so I was like, okay, his word. And I'm like, even for a second, I was like, wait, what's his word? And I'm like, oh my God, the Bible. And I had such a resistance to the Bible. Of course, I grew up Catholic. I was listening to the Bible all day in school, catechism, all these things, and they never answered my questions. They always rejected it. And it was always like, God knows better, don't ask. And, and concepts
Yeah.
like the devil and God and this all loving, pure, powerful, complete God. And then there's this little guy who's like competing at this level. And I couldn't reconcile these things. And
Hmm.
so that's what I was saying at the beginning of our interview. Like, I just let it all go. I just let it all go. And I just believed in the goodness of humanity. And I was just, you know, I cared about myself being good. That's it. Like, it was just simple. And then so in this moment that I get this answer from Google, I get myself a Bible, even though I was resistant, but I knew that this was different and that I had the time. So why not? And I got it, I ordered it. And then it sat on the shelf maybe 2 more weeks because I was like, there was still like you could evidently feel the resistance to like getting up early and reading this thing because having my daughter at the age that she was, I needed to get up significantly early to do this just for myself. Um, and then I finally did. But one thing I do remember is before I opened the book and I sat down and got my water and I got my highlighter and just like, I'm like, okay, let's see where this leads. I remember telling myself, Steph, you are going to read this as if, because I knew it would be different it wouldn't be different if I just opened it with the same concepts I had from the past.
Yeah.
So I told myself, okay, you're going to open this book and you're going to imagine that one of your best girlfriends was like, yo, I read this book. It is so cool. It's got a bunch of stories in it. I think you're really going to connect with a couple of them. Check it out. And so I made this huge, heavy book in my past concept. I just re-qualified it, or translated it, and made it like this fun adventure that I was about to discover and see what I could learn, if there was anything to learn. And it was just I became very neutral. And I think that in and of itself allowed for what I understand now for the Spirit to come upon me, to give me
Hmm.
the understanding of the New Testament, which was what I read. I started reading the book of Luke and receiving understanding that I had never understood before, and just being like, oh my gosh, the world has misunderstood Jesus in so many
Yeah.
ways. Even those who
Uh-huh.
follow Jesus have, this is so much deeper, this is so much more beautiful. And I remember it would just bring tears to my eyes. And yeah, it was just like this overwhelming sense of love. And now I couldn't wait to wake up at 5:30, 6 a.m. and do this every day. And I did it for months. And then, I had a mystical experience. I had certain things that really confirmed this path that I just suddenly opened myself up to just because I was willing to understand why I had resistance to the word God. And just, I humbled my heart and opened my mind to whatever was to be shown. And oh, was I shown? It was very felt. It was in a full experience of love. And Jesus was the way shower. He
Mm.
was, so he has forever unlocked my heart. And something I struggled with was like, oh my God, I love Jesus. And now, am I a fundamentalist? Am I now this? Do I got to go get a baptism? Like all these concepts start rolling back in, right?
Oh, yeah.
To box in this idea that's already been boxed for years, right? Let's say Jesus, the symbol of love, this mind of love. Um, and I had to be really discerning to like not fall for any of these things, like just to continue the path with his teachings, with his love. um and it was just so powerful for me. I don't think I ever felt a love so pure and so, yeah, all encompassing, so deep. And then from there I wanted to know more about Jesus. I just wanted to go deeper, and I felt like, oh, and in that moment, right, I felt like the Bible wasn't like, I wanted more. There was something there that I felt like was missing, that I could see through might have been missing teachings. And that's when I found Mary Magdalene's um, gospel, and I started looking up the Gnostic gospels and just like noticing. And then I remember that my mom had told me, and my mom has always been a huge spiritual seeker, and she had this big blue book that she never really dabbled in, but she got it. And it was called A Course in Miracles. And she had told me these are the lost teachings of Jesus. That's how she phrased it. And I was like years ago, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it never really stuck. But that moment that I wanted more of Jesus, like fast forward years later after, I'm like, where's the blue book? And I lived in her apartment at that moment, and I found the blue book, and the rest is history. So, like, I mean, it started with the Bible, but it's both the Bible and A Course in Miracles. The Spirit can use anything to reach our
Hmm.
hearts. So,
Yep.
that's
You
my
can use
story with
Google.
Jesus. And it's ever unfolding now, right? In a very new way all
That's
the
the beauty of
time.
it. Yep. The journey never ends. Uh
Mhm.
huh. First of all, thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. Very powerful.
Mhm.
I think a fascinating point that you explained is you approached it with openness. I think one has to be very open and at a point of almost exhaustion to what the world can provide in order to have the Holy Spirit dawn, in order to understand really what Jesus and all the other sages are trying to tell us. There has to be a point of humbling, a
Mhm.
great humbling. And with that humbling, hopefully an opening to the word. And that is the foundation. With that foundation, one is able to get the transmission because that's what I feel comes from the Bible and all the sacred texts is a
Mhm.
transmission. You get a download. There's something very special about the words of the Bible, man. That'll just hit you like a psychedelic experience. There's a transmission in the word, man. That's way more powerful than just the symbol of what they're trying to say. Like if you know
Mhm.
how to read it with the right set and setting, with the right foundation in your being, yeah, it might make you cry sometimes. Sometimes you feel what the author felt, what Luke felt, what Matthew felt. Like there's something that's just in it that it's goes beyond explanation that only you can experience. It's almost like I get this feeling that those words were specifically, especially the red letters, they were specifically written for me. And I don't mean just me, but it feels like that. You know,
Mhm.
it's like, wow, this is for me in this exact moment. I was meant to get this. That's just what it feels like, at least to my being. It feels like, yep, me and Matthew, we're linked up right now through time and through space, just through the magic of these words that are on this paper. It's very powerful stuff. And I never felt that. This has only been just this year and a half that I've been diving into it. But you start to find that there is magic in the word from these special beings like Jesus and all the apostles, all the saints and sages in
Mhm.
yoga. They're all saying the same thing,
Absolutely.
right? I think you mentioned too before we went on that point is how we all have our own journey, like our own I forget the
Script.
exact words. Our own script. Yeah. We all have our own script to this thing, and that's the beauty of it. It's like we all can all appreciate Jesus's journey and his embodiment and all the other sages. We can all appreciate the dharma that they bestowed upon us. But the beauty of it is that we translate that into our own life
Mhm.
and almost like continue on their story, continue
Mhm.
on what they bestowed upon us, what they left us in the book. We are the newer testament in a way,
Mm.
right?
I love that.
Yeah, it's almost like the beginning of the journey. Once you kind of get the glimpse into what they were saying, then that's when the fun starts for your own life. And it never ends. It truly never ends. Even after this life is done, even after you're gone, it continues on. Just like the words in the Bible, just like Jesus's red letters, they continue on forever.
They do. And speaking of his words, in the Bible, I don't know the exact verse, but I know that there's a part where he says, more will come that will do greater works than I.
Yep.
And that is the legacy being passed on, right? That is
Mm-hmm.
and really what it is him being so fully one with the Spirit, one with God. And, this great confusion about Jesus being the one and the only one. And yes, he was the only one. When we realize the true self, we understand that the true self is only one,
Mm-hmm.
and it is only one in God. And so he spoke with such conviction and some truth, such truth from that internal place. And yet, of course, the mind of the human, the filters, the egoic filters through which all of these messages were received are going to limit, are going to box, are going to put their own concepts upon this oneness. And you know, it's almost like, can we limit Jesus to, like Jesus is basically saying, I am this one, and yet all of you are one with me. We are all the children of God. It's like saying, yeah, this light source, you look at the sun and it has all these rays. It's this beautiful image that's in the Course in Miracles as well. It's like the great rays, and we're here to all shine our ray of light, and our source is the light. We are not the source of the light, yet we are one with the light, and we shine our rays out. And we recognize each other, and we recognize each other's rays because we vibrate. We are at the same frequency. So, and when it's not vibrating at the same frequency, we shine our light upon the darkness, whatever that may be, which many times may be quote unquote outside of us. And I say outside of us because, the Course is really teaching us that whatever is outside of us is also inside of us, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
there is this is whole projection that we're experiencing, but ultimately it's to heal the mind.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's to know what we truly are and where the source truly is. So, yeah, so it's like whether it's outside of us, that healing that's calling, right? A situation, something with a member, family member, or a thing at work, whatever it may be, or if it's something coming up in our own mind, doubts, fears, right? So we have the light, the great ray to shine upon our own mind, right? To shine upon, like, but we haven't been taught this. So it's kind of like it's getting this like, okay, I have the power to shine my own light upon the darkness that has been a pattern in me, that I've been programmed into, that, just fear itself has taken over, whatever that is. I have the light. I have the
Mm.
light because I am of that light.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's kind of like bringing people back to that experience. And that's what Jesus ultimately wanted us all to know, that the kingdom of
Yeah.
heaven was within, that we are here to shine our lights, that a city set on a hill is meant to shine its light, not to be turned off. A lamp is meant to, glow and do its job, not to be put under the table. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Powerful again. I just got the image of the lamp, the lantern lighting
Mm,
other lanterns. I think that's the purpose. You shine the light, and then they become a beacon, and so forth. Love just brings love. Light brings light.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's
And yeah.
good.
You just made me think of an image that I want to share.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen like many YouTube videos use this for a lot of different metaphors, but it could be YouTube or Insta. There's two lighters, and they have a bottle of water, a cup of water, and they drop the lighter in, right? And so they show that both of them light before one is dropped into the water, and so is drowning, right? Is drowned. It's
Mm.
under. It can't. And then so they take the one in the water and they click it, and it just does not light up. Yeah. But all you need is a lighter that is working, that is dry, that is directly connected and open channel to the light,
Mm.
to put it on the other lighter that cannot turn on by itself due to the water, due to the drowning, right? Doing to being submerged, whether you want to call it darkness or, at the bottom of the bottom.
Yep.
So this one's not turning on by itself, but if we bring the other one, it lights it up immediately.
Yeah.
And look at that. There you go.
Wow. Where'd that come from? What? Come on, man.
Spirit loves to surprise me with these effects
I don't even
sometimes.
know what caused that. That's really funny. Well, that's a sign right there, everybody.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Total confirmation of lighting each other up. So
Amazing. Amazing.
beautiful. Thank you,
Wow.
Spirit. Mm.
Um, yeah, I've actually never heard of that, but
Mm.
it's true. It's this one light source. Like all fires are in, I don't even know if you want to say fire, but all light comes from the one light, truly. And it's not esoteric. That actually just makes sense. And we are literally light too. We're actually made of light. We're just slow moving light. So,
Mhm.
maybe one may think it's like a little out there to talk like this and think like this and oh, there go the hippies talking like that. But no, like we're literally made of light. We
Mm.
actually are just made of light. It may not seem like it. You may think this is all skin and bones and hair and whatever else, but at our deepest essence, we're just light. We're just light moving through different processes and through different systems. So, um, yeah, there's different layers to the light for sure, but you can tune your light body to this sense of the one light. And another thing that came up too is it's not a coincidence that sun, SON, and SUN
Yeah.
are the same exact word. Like, come
Yes.
on, man. The light of the sun,
Mm.
it's just a play on words,
The light of the sun.
right?
I honestly, after my awakening, there was like no song that I could ever hear again that was talking about the sun.
Mm.
The way it talks about, I'm trying to see if anyone comes to mind if it does. But like, just
Here
talking
comes
about,
the sun.
right, there you
Da-da-da-da.
go. There you go. And here comes the Son of God. Absolutely.
Yeah,
We're everywhere and we're waking up to our own sunness, to our inheritance, to
yeah.
who we truly are. And yeah, here comes the sun. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And even deeply, like in another way, you could look at it, here comes Jesus into the hearts of many that are not, that it's no longer about, whether you believed in him, whether you go into a church, whether it's just a willingness, an openness. And if you just give him a little bit of a green light, that's what the Course in Miracles says. If you have a little bit of
Mm.
willingness, that's all the Spirit needs to move through and reach
Ah,
you.
I like that. A little bit of faith.
hmm
Yeah.
It's just a mustard seed. That's all that's needed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, do you think
Yeah.
Jesus's main priority mission here was for all of us to become like him, and like him as in 100% every moment of the day living with God, living in that faith of God, that light of God?
Yeah, I do think, let's say, the form in which it'll take place will be very different. And I think um,
Yeah.
that's not, I think we can get caught up in the form, but ultimately, my answer is yes. Ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
the the purpose of all life is to actually get to know what life is, right? To get to
Mm-hmm.
differentiate what is true life from what we thought was life, what it is that we truly want from what we thought we wanted.
Yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
starting to really distinguish these things. And only a life that is surrendered to the divine will bring us that knowledge, will bring us that wisdom. So it's like, yes, we need the courage to step forward, and yet we need the humility to step back and know
Yeah.
our place. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful contradiction because it's not saying, yeah, I am God and now, I'm the creator of everything. Yes, I have creative abilities in me, but because I come from a creator that is creation and being a part of that creation, I create. I am a reflection of that ability of creation, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, sometimes with words we can get a little stuck with like the differences,
Definitely.
but I think absolutely the purpose is to reach divine union, which
Mm-hmm.
yoga, the word yoga means union.
Yeah.
And that's what
Exactly.
you're ultimately trying to attain or come to reveal, right? It's not like attain, like it's separate from me, because that's the thing that's tricky about the spiritual journey that we think we're somehow attaining something outside of us until we realize that it's like the Course in Miracles says, I can't stop quoting it. The Course in Miracles says, it's a journey of no distance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's a forever journey, but it's of no distance. You're not going anywhere. You're coming right back home to who you are and where you are now, to the present moment. So, yeah, I don't know if I forgot what I was saying or I finished the idea, but
I don't even remember either,
that's
to
fine.
be honest.
We'll leave it as it is.
We'll leave it at that. Yeah, yeah. Do you think this is what we all want? Is essentially to stop wanting? Ironically, it's like we all
Yeah,
want God. We all want this essence of surrender and simultaneous empowerment in our life, but it all comes from actually not wanting anything in the first place.
yeah. It's like, it makes me think, I got a lot of ideas that cross through my mind, but I'll go with the one of a child. Or like, even this sense of like, in a relationship, like when you're seeking a partner, what you're truly seeking is safety, to be yourself. I mean, ultimately, right? To just feel supported, to feel held, to be seen.
Yeah.
And there is this innate desire in us to feel supported and to be so taken care of, like a child is taken care of by their parent,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the child doesn't wake up thinking like, oh, I gotta prep my lunch. Or they don't wake up thinking like, oh, how am I gonna get to school today? Or all these things that get done for them because they are in full trust that the parent is taking care of that for them.
Yeah.
And yet now we have a spiritual parent. We have a ultimate parent, right? That is forever um, guiding us back, waiting even on us patiently with a smile on its face,
Mm-hmm.
saying, like, okay, I see that you have to go through what you're going through there. But I am here and I see you, and I will send my angels, whatever it is that helps you get to know me. And even if that means you getting to know me because you're facing a turbulent, some trial, some turbulation in your life, all of it is for you discovering me. Because discovering me, the parent, God, is discovering yourself. Then you're ultimately going to know who you are and what you're rooted in, and that all the things of the world that were temporal that you were trying to desire, you were desiring and stuff. And it's not like those things are bad, right? Because I think on the spiritual journey, we've created a real split between those things. And yet, it's not that they're bad, it's just that they're illusory, they're temporal, they're not where
Yep.
the foundation is. So we can, if we know the game, if we know the truth, if we have the blueprint, we're like, okay, this relationship's coming into my life. Okay, I see I've gotten this offer. This podcast interview's come into my life. Okay, yeah, what do I do with it? And do I use it as a thing that's going to, like, my identity or my worth is somehow dependent upon it? Then we've confused things. But
Mm.
now, if not, then I can just enjoy and go on the ride and see what turns up and unfolds for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. You start to enjoy the ride. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because before it's like a victim mentality, right? Like the world
Yeah.
is happening to you. And now you're like, oh, shoot, everything is happening for me. Even when
Mm-hmm.
I'm like crying in my bed and like now, like I can ultimately be crying and be true to what's moving through me. And,
Mm.
like something's coming up, a pattern, something I thought maybe I healed already, whatever it is, it's coming up. And I can be true to that emotion and let it be, like you would let your child move through an emotion. You wouldn't deny it because it's just going to keep you stuck there. You're going to stick it under the rug. It's about to pop some way. So we have to be authentic to what's showing up for us. And yet there's this underlying notion like, this is for me. I don't understand how. I
Mm-hmm.
can't see in which way, but I trust. My trust is bigger. It's
Yep.
deeper. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an important aspect of faith because it's easy to have faith
Hmm.
when it's all good on a nice, bright, and sunny day and you just ate a nice meal. Like, yeah, of course God exists. But when you're sick, you're hurt, or when your loved ones is sick and hurt, when there is darkness in your life, can you have faith then? And if you can, it
Mm.
actually It doesn't make it go away per se, but it just makes it lighter. It makes our
Mm,
suffering a little bit lighter because we do know that there is in some way something acting for our greater good. There's something acting on our
right.
behalf for us to see through it, and that it is in somehow, some way benevolent, even though it might not seem like it at the surface level. That no matter what, man, there's always God. And that's the beauty
Mm,
of realizing God, is that even when shit sucks, there's always God. And yeah, that's the test. But also, if you can pass the test, just makes life better because we can both recognize now, right, that we're gonna suffer. The Buddha told us that we're all gonna get old, sick, and die, and I don't think you can do it without God, without faith.
mm,
The Buddha wouldn't even say God, to be honest. That's what's kind of funny. They don't even get
yeah.
into God, but I think it's all the same. It's all the same, like seeing. It's all the same seeing. You don't even have to say God, get into Jesus or anything, and that's the beauty of it. Many different
Mm,
labels and symbols, as we said before, but it's all the same seeing. And if you can see it all in the right way, you'll be able to get old, sick, and die without any fear, without any resistance to the whole process.
right. I personally, so two main things came to mind, and I hope I can
Mm.
remember them because it's such a juicy conversation, and we can get off in tangents, and it's just speaking about the Buddha, being a person who did yoga, studied it, is a teacher in yoga, and has evolved in my understanding of yoga, like everything in life, right? Um, I don't remember where I heard it, but and this is really not to make so much a comparison, but just to shine a light that there is something that is so beyond us that even the Buddha, guiding us to become aware of what suffering is and how to release ourselves to liberate us. That's literally the word, right? To liberate us from suffering was like him bringing the canoe to the shore, right? Like bringing to the, like if we're saying like the canoe of life, like he's bringing it to the shore. And yet he didn't like truly, I feel, and maybe there will be more revealed, but after getting to know the teachings of Jesus and seeing how, especially through the Course in Miracles, how it's teaching us that, you know, there is this God, all loving God, but beyond, there's this access to love in
Mm.
who we are. It's not just about the liberation of the mind, yet there's both the liberation of the mind and a complete, like, I want to say, like a thinking like of a dam, like this opening of the floodgates of something of a well that we have inside us. So, yes, there's equanimity, and yes, there is liberation of the mind. And yet, simultaneously, there is an overflowing state that we are here to pour into
Yeah.
everything. And I know that there are monks and Buddhist monks who live from like compassion, and they do these compassion meditations, right? Metta meditations, and so I think we all reach it in different ways. But sometimes, just for like the philosophical academic mind who's looking at the theoretical, there is this, for me, step beyond, into the beyond, outside of the universe, outside of the metaverse and all the timelines, that is the pure oneness, the pure love and light of God. That is
Yeah.
our truest, most ultimate identity. So that was one thing that came to mind. And the other thing, what was the other thing? Oh, yes. Um, One of my favorite, I mean, I have so many favorite workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles, but this one is because you were talking about, even in when dark times, can I have faith, And even if it's seemingly like something bad, can I know that there's a true benevolent force behind it? And there's this beautiful um, course lesson that says, I do not know what anything is for. And you
Yeah.
repeat that throughout the day. I do not
Mm.
know what anything is for.
I know
So it
nothing.
is, yeah, it's first a step in humility, right? I think I know why this is happening to me. I do not know what anything is for.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whether it's my mom falling and breaking her hips, whether it's, I got, diagnosed with something, or I lost a job, or the list goes on in all types of forms and ways and things in scripts. And yet, the invitation is, I do not know what this is for. Me crying on the bed. I do not know what anything is for. Like, and it's just like, you show me. You, Holy Spirit, let
Mm-hmm.
me see this differently. You come upon my mind and I hand it over. I put it on this spiritual altar, right? This metaphorical altar. And I release because I am, for whatever reason, blocked, right? To see the ultimate truth about this. And so I hand it over to you in that faith, in that trust, because I understand that I don't know what anything is for. And I just think it's so powerful. And it's maybe a mantra that can help someone on this video today.
Yeah,
So I know it's helped
helps
me.
me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like that. I know nothing. Truly, I know nothing.
There you go. Yeah, Socrates.
Yeah. I only know that I know nothing. That's the highest form of knowing, is knowing nothing. Yeah. Um yeah, it is quite hard to describe using mouth noises here because our being, what we're trying to describe is many different layers and levels simultaneously. So
Yep.
one instance is we're describing a surrender, a complete surrender to a greater force than we could ever imagine, and we truly know nothing, and we just got to get out of the way. But at the same time, there is empowerment in that, right? There is just true power that comes from surrender, which is this weird paradox. It's this weird
Yeah.
irony. It's the truth. And if you try to analyze it too much, it actually doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't make any
Mm,
logical sense, but it makes the most sense to some kind of intuitive knowing. Like your intuition will just lead the way through resonance and be like, ah, yes, of course, this is
right.
how it is. How could I not surrender? It's apparent. It's obvious that I just need to surrender here and get out of the way. So yeah, it's having these conversations. To me, it's like it's not easy, but at the same time, it is. See, again, it's a contradiction. It's not easy to the mind, and maybe to anybody listening, to try and like formulate some kind of mathematical proof to how this makes sense. But um, it makes it just intuitively makes sense, even beyond words. Like sometimes I get to these conversations, I'm like, what am I trying to say here? Really, like
Mm,
what am I trying to? The symbols only go so far, and I guess that's all we can really say is the symbols only go so far. All of this that we describe, that Jesus describes, that Buddha describes, that all the yogis describe, it only goes so far. And where it goes to, ideally, if it's a pure teaching, is to you. I like to say any
mhm.
pure teaching is a teaching for you to go back to you. That's it. And that's really what Jesus was trying to tell us. He wasn't like, hey, look, it's all about me, create Christianity, create churches all about me. I
Yeah,
am the only one. No, no, that's complete dogma. Any
right.
pure teaching, any teacher is bringing you to you, the Sadguru within. The guru brings you to the Sadguru within.
Mm,
And that's all I can say. I think that's the greatest use of our word, right?
yeah.
This whole conversation right now. It's
Yeah.
just
And what you're
hopefully,
saying, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. I was just
No,
going to
I
say,
was just going to
hopefully,
say,
we got a little delay here. I was just going to say, hopefully, to anybody listening, this serves as a reminder for one to go back to themselves. And that's it.
mm. Yeah, I was just saying, like, you're pretty much saying, I mean, almost verbatim, the words of the course, that it's ultimately the purpose of the course is to connect you with your own internal teacher, your divine teacher, right? That self within you that is guiding everything. And the moment that you do, close the book, let it go, you know?
Honestly, yeah. Shut off the video. Turn off the
Yeah.
podcast.
And that's that saying, kill the Buddha. If you see the Buddha,
Yeah.
kill the Buddha. And that means that if you see the Buddha, you've reached the Buddha, and the Buddha's now
Yeah.
alive, kill it. In other words, don't idolize it. Don't go there. Don't make it,
Exactly.
what was done with Jesus, for example, this idolization. And I can
Yep.
understand the level of love that he represented and how it could be idolized because the ego will latch on to all types
Mm-hmm.
of understandings and versions and things that we want to fit into our world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't here to fit into the world. Um, he was here to stand out and above, as we all are here to
Exactly.
stand out, not to fit in. So, and
Amen.
it takes courage, to do this. So I'm
Yeah.
super thankful to you, Gary. Like you've listened to your own call of like, I want to talk to people about this. I want to make this accessible to others so that, these conversations can be had and be recorded and be held in the ether of the internet and reach whoever it needs to reach by the Spirit's algorithm. I actually made a video today and I was like, forget the algorithm. Like, forget it. Just do you, be you. And the Spirit is the ultimate algorithm of all life.
Yeah.
So, like, don't even worry about that. Like,
Exactly.
we get caught up in numbers and expectations and things, and it's just like, no, 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 come to do the work.
Yeah.
Just go
Exactly.
about your father's business or your mother's business, just go about the work of God, the work of
Mm-hmm.
love, and everything will take care of itself.
Hallelujah.
Mm.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. I think that's a good point to wrap this up at, but I also want to echo what you said in terms of creation. Just create without any conditions. And I think that's actually how we started this conversation in some way. So we're
Mm.
coming full circle. When you can just come on here and create what you're good at, what God wills of you, just to be an instrument, right? When you just let God play you like an instrument, you're not conditioned or you're not constrained to the condition of subscribers or clout or views or what does this person say about me. Like when you just speak from the heart, man, um, that's real creation. And that's when people, ironically, will actually follow you. And you'll actually
Yeah,
be able to have amazing connections because you're creating without any kind of expectation. That
yeah.
is the funny joke. It's like when you're creating and all you do is care about, you know, looking cool or something like that, you're going to put out that scarcity energy of like, look at me, look how cool I am. And nobody's going to like that. So you kind of have to, I mean, you already know this stuff, obviously, but to anybody listening, if you really want to be a creator, just create, man. Who
Yeah,
cares about the algorithm? Like you said, that's stupid. That's so
yeah.
stupid. You have to just create art, man. Create real art in a form that is like you don't care how it ends up, where it ends
Mhm,
up, why, for what reason, for no reason at all. I feel as though I come on here with people like you for truly no reason. And obviously in the back of my head, I know it's like the story goes on, the ego story of like, well, if I post this video, then I might get X amount of likes, and then
mhm,
people will see me. Yeah, that's still there. But I know ultimately that's not the highest pursuit. That's not the highest purpose. And not even in terms of like online creation. We're all creators in our own way. So if you can
mhm,
become a creator without any kind of expectations of a reward, then truly you'll be free in this incarnation. You know, you could bake cakes, you could be a construction worker, you could be a garbage man, you could be a janitor, you could be an accountant. All of that is creation in its own way. And if you can just do it just because, yes,
mm.
the paycheck will come. But if you're doing it for some kind of higher reason, if you really truly feel called from God to do it, that is where you'll find freedom. And yeah, I found it. I
Yeah.
feel it now. I don't know about you, but I feel just free,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I've been, what, 2 months on YouTube now, and honestly, and I was sharing that in the video today, like, it's changed my life in the sense that, like, it's this uncharted territory for me to show up and express and be and create in whatever capacity and share that journey authentically, you know? It's also being true to the moment, to what's showing up, and watching the mind becoming like exposing the ego. I think that's really
Yeah.
big on my channel. Like, let's look at all these things that are coming up. Oh, right. Look at me. I'm looking at my wrinkles and looking at this. And now I'm caring about nope, 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 nope. Wash it out. Let it go. Because it's like we need these reminders because the ego is still prominent, like you said, but we can start to tune in to the higher frequency and tune up into spirit frequency, into spirit truth, and begin to tune down. Even though we may become aware of it, we're like, ah, I know what that is. Yeah, there's
Yep.
a discernment that comes, and it only comes the more we practice, the more we step forward and just trust to follow the spark, whatever God's placed on our heart, to just move forward and mess up and not judge
Yeah.
ourselves. It's that like consistent practice. So,
Mm.
so yeah, I
Amen.
invite also anybody who is on that journey, because I know a lot of us are, um, to check out the YouTube, and I always tell people, if you want to do this or whatever version of this, right? Like you said, baking or, taxes, whatever it is that like, you're good at, and you're like, damn,
Yeah.
this gives me energy. This lights me up. Do
Exactly.
it. Step forward. Do it. The world's waiting on you.
Yes. Follow that spark. Whatever lights you up. I love these metaphors of light, but it's true.
hmm
Yeah.
That's it.
We all know. I think all of us know in our heart what lights us up. We just got to get out of our own way.
hmm
But there is something special. I know we're going to wrap this up, but I just want to say there is something special about utilizing the word. Whether you're doing a podcast, or you just turn the camera on and talk, or you write a book, write some poetry, write some raps,
mm
sing. There's something very beneficial about working with the word. That is a very powerful practice for one's being. And I'm still figuring it out myself. I'm literally figuring it out right now using the word. But there's
mm.
something that, like, if I've done over 200 podcast episodes. I don't think I would have the levels of realization and awareness about myself if I didn't come on here and speak with others. There's something about just speaking, not only me speaking, but hearing others speak that have
Right.
this certain levels of attainment. So
Right.
that's all I have to say. There's something special about working with the word. As we said, everybody has their own form of creativity, but if you can find some kind of creative knack to work with the word, um, I would recommend it. That's it. I would recommend it. You don't have to, but I would recommend it. The word became flesh. What does that mean?
Yeah. And it makes me think of an insight I had on one of my. So I filled in many, many journals once I had my awakening. I went through a season of automatic writing, and those journals are still sitting here. And I stepped away from them when I started to box them into a certain idea and an expectation. So I took a step back.
Uh
And
huh.
I know the time will come when and if I need to share these with the world, if they will be of most help, right? But it reminds me of one that I talk about sharing, that literally we are meant to share. Like sharing is part of the way we attain ourselves is through sharing, because if we're ultimately one, we can't come to know each other unless we either vocalize or write down. So, in connection to the word, like you're saying, the word is an expression, a language in which we connect to each other and we share with each other. And just
Mm-hmm.
by the act of sharing, there is a level of fulfillment, right? We've
Yeah.
confused sharing with getting a result, right? We've included like, oh, I shared, now I need some sort of response, some approval. But that's not what sharing is. Sharing is
Mm.
just in the giving. It is just in the expressing. It is just in the writing and the singing. And then everything else is not of your responsibility. Like you're
Yeah.
saying, we're not to care about what other people are thinking, saying, believing, even. We are to do our role, and our role is to do our part. And we can only do that by sharing. And even baking, what do you bake so that you just make a huge cake for yourself and you sit at home and look at your cake and smell it? No, ultimately, the only way that you will there you share it. You want to bake a cake and give it to people because they are
Yeah.
connected to you. There is something about that that is always calling us. So that's so beautiful that you mentioned that. Thank you.
Yeah. Very good point. Yep. Share the love. It's like, what am I gonna do? Keep it all to myself? You can't help but share it in whatever way that it comes about. You got to share it
hmm
because, like you said, it leads to fulfillment. It's a win-win. It's a win for yourself, the sense of separate self, the Gary, and it's also a win for whoever it's being shared to, if they're open enough. Yeah, it's a win-win, man. It's a win-win. Well, I thank you for sharing your time, effort, and wisdom with us today. I think this was an awesome conversation. You are a very bright individual, very warm energy. So yeah, this was great. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Gary. And we appreciate you too. You're bringing all these lights on. You're shining, you have your stage set up to shine lights about upon all of us who are, just following the call in different ways. So
Mm,
appreciate you. This was a beautiful conversation, and you just never know with the spirit how it's going to turn out and how it's going to unfold. And it
yeah,
always is more and bigger than what we think. So,
that's the beauty of it. Yep,
yeah,
just getting it out of the way.
that's it. Amen.
Amen. Well, yeah, thank you, Steph. I don't have anything else to say.
All
I wish
right.
you all the best. Peace and
Yes.
love to you, and yeah, peace and love to anybody that listens to this song as well.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Bye bye.
Goodbye.